Tonight, my conversation with former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. We'll discuss getting fired by President Trump, the Russia probe, Bridgegate, and a lot more. Christie joins us. Then Roger Stone back in court today, pleading not guilty to a slew of federal charges. Is President Trump's longtime advisor angling for a pardon if things go south? A former federal prosecutor will weigh in. Also, we are facing yet another government shutdown in just 2.5 weeks if Congress can't cut a deal that the president will be willing to accept. And already, the president's grumbling. Could we actually be heading for round 2? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday evening. Well, Chris Christie is back in the news. The former New Jersey governor's new book called Let Me Finish, it's getting a lot of buzz, largely because he dishes a lot about the Trump administration. Now, I'm going to read you a few excerpts. Quote, Donald so urgently needed the right people around him and a solid structure in place. Far too often, he's found himself saddled with a riffraff. Instead of high-quality, vetted appointees for key administration posts, he got the Russian lackey and future federal felon Michael Flynn as National Security Advisor. He got the greedy and inexperienced Scott Pruitt as the administrator of the EPA. He got the high-flying Tom Price as health secretary. He got the not-ready-for-primetime Jeff Sessions as attorney general, promptly recusing himself from the Justice Department's Russian collusion probe. He got a stranger named Rex Tillerson as the Secretary of State. Christie also writes quite a bit about Jared Kushner. When Christie was a federal prosecutor, he locked up Kushner's dad for more than a year, that over tax charges. Christie says Kushner, he wanted him out as transition team chairman from day one. The book says Steve Bannon, he was the man tasked with firing Christie. This is what Bannon said to Christie when he carried out the measure. Quote, the kid's been taking an axe to your head with the boss ever since I got here. Christie had a rocky tenure in New Jersey as well. As many of us remember, right after Superstorm Sandy, when President Obama visited Jersey, the two men toured the damage. Christie, he was at record popularity levels. His approval rating soaring above 70% back then in a blue state. But by the time he left office, his poll numbers, they sagged to record lows. I'm talking about in the teens. Well, a short time ago, I spoke with Christie about the book, the president, Bridgegate, and more. At one point in the book, you recount on how obviously Jared Kushner tried to keep you off the transition team, but the president pushed back. Why did he reverse course, do you think, and in the end accede to Jared and get you pushed out?
Well, it's hard for me to tell, but what I could tell you is that what I was told by people in the campaign was that the assault continued on me throughout the campaign while I had moved to the transition. And that, as Steve Bannon put it, and I have this in the first chapter, he said that the kid, meaning Jared, was taking an axe to your head with the boss from the time I got here. So I think there was a continued assault on that, and ultimately I think the president-elect just decided to let them do what they wanted to do with the transition. And what they wanted to do was get rid of me and throw out all the work that we did over the 6 months before Election Day.
You know, throughout the campaign, you were probably the first major figure who got behind the Trump candidacy. And was there a point where you said, I mean, you saw the clips that you look like you're in a hostage video in a couple of them, where when he was attacking the rule of law, you were a U.S. attorney, when he was saying some of the things he was saying, when he was considering some of the policies that he talked about openly, I don't want to be a part of this. What made you say, well, this is just, you know, his stump routine versus who he really was?
Well, remember something, too. I spoke out when I disagreed. And secondly, elections are a binary choice. And our choice was Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And quite frankly, I think Hillary Clinton was a much worse choice for the country. And I decided that I wanted to make sure that she would not go take us down the path that she would take us down. And I stood firmly with the president, and I still today feel it was the right choice to make given the choice we were presented with. Let's face it, I've said all along, Donald Trump was not my first choice for president. I was my first choice for president. I didn't win the primary, he did. And as a result, I think I still made the right decision and the right choice to get with him and help him because I think this country would be in much, much different shape. And I don't mean better if Hillary Clinton were president.
That said, when you've seen the succession of cabinet members that have either been shown the door or have gone to the door, most recently, notably General Mattis, did that check with what you were seeing firsthand and the conversations you had for the people inside, the chaos that's been described by so many, where it goes beyond just the personality conflicts and there's a real question about competency and really just having a tight ship?
Well, I think that those bad choices in the beginning led to all of the problems that we see now. Not having an organized White House, not having the very best people inside the White House, not always vetting people in the way that they should be vetted. That's what the transition worked 6 months to avoid. And that's why the decision by Jared Kushner and Steve Bannon and Rick Dearborn to trash that transition and run the transition from the back of an envelope over 71 days after the election made absolutely no sense. And it ill-served the president and gave him bad people to choose from, like Michael Flynn, like Omarosa Manigault, and we could go through the list. That's what the transition produced and presented to him, and he deserved much better than that.
You write that almost 2 years ago to the day in the book, you were there at a lunch with the president and Jared Kushner when they thought that by getting rid of Flynn, the Russia thing, as they describe it, would go away. You write about laughing and saying, guys, we're going to be talking about this a lot longer than that. Do you believe that that reflected naivete, or is it that if they say things a certain amount of times, they just will want to believe them to be true?
No, I think that was naivete about what works and what happens in federal investigations. And so the way I was trying to talk to him that day was as a former federal prosecutor, to say to them, like, listen, I've run these investigations. This is not going to be over just because you fired Mike Flynn. This is going to take a long time. I said we're still going to be talking about a Valentine's Day of 18. Turns out it's going to be Valentine's Day of 19 soon, and we're still going to be talking about it then. And so I undersold it as opposed to overselling it. Jared said to me that day, you're crazy. I've run these investigations. I know what it's like to do that. And Bob Mueller has run a good investigation.
Finally, Governor, you were cleared of Bridgegate, but obviously a couple of your close aides were convicted. If you had it to do over again in terms of the goodbye, do you wish that you said something differently to the people in New Jersey who felt so frustrated and let down by how the whole thing went, that even if you weren't involved or knew about it, that you owed a sorry?
Well, I said I was sorry the day that it happened. The day that it came out, I apologized to the people of New Jersey because despite the fact that I didn't know about it, I had to be accountable for it because I was the governor. And believe me, I think anybody who looks at it knows that I was held accountable, even though I had nothing to do with it. And so to the extent that anybody missed it, I am sorry for what happened with that. And I am accountable for it because I'm the governor. The people who were responsible for it, two of them are now going to jail. And it was an awful thing. It was bad judgment. It was a horrible way to use the levers of government by those folks. And worse than that, they lied to the person who gave them their jobs and allowed it to go on for longer. So, no, I've always regretted that. But I said I was sorry. If you go back and look at the transcript on January 9th of 2014, and my view on that hasn't changed.
Governor, thank you.
Thank you.
And up next, Roger Stone back in court today, and he pleaded not guilty. How pivotal is Stone to the entire case? A former federal prosecutor joins us to discuss that and more.